How should Christians respond to the origin of life? Well, the origin of life question is one of those enduring mysteries in science. Nobody really knows how life first originated here on Earth. Now, many people in the scientific community are exploring evolutionary explanations for the origin of life. This is called chemical evolution or abiogenesis. But the fact of the matter is, over the course of the last 70 years, scientists have been pursuing this kind of explanation for the origin of life and really have no understanding about how life could have originated through chemical evolution. The best that they have been able to do is to produce a disparate set of clues. That is, scientists working on the origin of life problem have identified what they call pieces of the puzzle, but it's very clear that the pieces of the puzzle are only a handful of what we would need to assemble the picture of how life would originate. And those pieces that we do have don't fit together very nicely in many instances. Now, some of those pieces of the puzzle that scientists have developed comes from work in prebiotic chemistry. This is where scientists go in the lab and they try to replicate the different steps that they think took place in chemical evolution, going from simple molecules to the very first cells. And through this effort, they have identified chemical reactions that in principle could generate life's building blocks, could lead to the formation of biopolymers, even the emergence of protocells. But this work is only giving us information in principle because it doesn't really tell us what actually happened under the conditions of the early Earth. And part of the concern is that the scientists that are doing this work in the lab are operating under chemically pristine conditions. It's a highly controlled environment where they assemble a glass apparatus, and they're very careful to exclude contaminating materials that would have been present on the early Earth. They regulate the temperature, they regulate the pH of the solvent, they even select the chemical nature of the solvent. They add the right chemicals at the right time in the right concentrations. They stop the reaction at the just right point in time. So in other words, under the highly controlled conditions of the lab, scientists are successfully able to carry out reactions they think had some kind of relevance to the origin of life. The problem is the conditions of the early Earth are uncontrolled. It's a chemically complex, physically complex environment. There would not be organic chemists on the early Earth to oversee the different reactions that would be needed to contribute to the origin of life. In other words, origin of life researchers have failed to demonstrate the geochemical relevance of the experiments that they've done in the lab. But the problem is even more severe than that many of the scientists doing this work have unwittingly incorporated themselves into the experimental design. In other words, they've involved themselves in the design of the experiment to such a degree that they are actually contributing to the success of the experiment. This is referred to as the problem of unwarranted researcher involvement. So in other words, if it wasn't for the work of intelligent agents, this chemistry probably would never take place. So ironically, the work designed to explain how chemical evolution could contribute to the origin of life actually gives us a pointer to the reality that an intelligent agency is necessary for life to originate on the early Earth. And this points to the role that a creator must have played in the origin and the fundamental design of life. If you want to know more about the problem of unwarranted researcher involvement, I would invite you to take a look at my book, Creating Life in the Lab.